Panthers practice facility to the Delta Hotel in downtown Toronto, home of the CHL Awards. Thanks for joining me here today on the sheet. And no, I have not slept yet. Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta to Toronto to right now. So you'll have to excuse the Louis Vuittons that I'm wearing underneath my eyes. Today, folks, are getting the coffee shop look. But nonetheless, thanks so much for joining me here today. And we have a number of great CHL guests coming up here over the next 60 minutes or so. Going to talk a little bit here to start off the program, though, about the Edmonton Oilers last night. And the star of the show, Leon Draisaitl, with the overtime winner, the overtime heroics, and now the series is a best 2 out of 3. Before we get to our daily outline here, and I want Zach to hop on and chime in on this one too, I want to read to you a text I got from a former Edmonton Oilers teammate of Leon Draisaitl, a text that I got from him last night after Leon Draisaitl scored that goal. Let's admire 29's ability to sneeze and score at the same time. The hand of God guides this man's stick, and he's just so sassy doing it. This guy just sneezes a puck at the net. Everything on his banana blade is just and here's the money line, everything on his banana blade is just a magnet to hell for goalies. He's incredible. What do you think about that line? Everything on his banana blade is a magnet to hell for goalies.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to pass it. He was trying to pass
one-handed
on the final backhand, one hand, guarding the puck outside, fires it towards. And then my favorite part of that text, the sassy. It was sassy. How he passed it was sassy.
Yep.
His celebration was sassy. Everything about it was sassy.
The Podkolzin pass was great. I'll tell you what, there's something there with Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and Perry. We'll see what happens as the venue shifts now to Edmonton on Saturday night. But hands up who thought this thing was done after the Florida Panthers went up 3-0. And I expect all of your hands to be up at the same time as well. That's right, Nick Caroli in the background. You got your hand up, too. Like, this has been, like, normally by the time you get to this, when you get to the Stanley Cup Final, we're usually very kind to it because guys are tired, guys are beaten up, and the quality of hockey deteriorates as the playoffs go on. We all know the first round is always the best. That's a story that's been told as long as there's been frozen water and rubber pucks. But this series, and even in the blowouts, this series has been incredible drama and incredible theater, and it almost feels like operatic in some senses because we're not just watching games, we're watching dramas. Like you're watching Elizabethan Shakespearean theater here. And I am king, curtain. And getting there's like tragedy and violence and euphoria and twists and turns. This has been, hands down, one of the best Stanley Cup finals we've seen in a long time. I always judge Stanley Cup finals by 1987, Edmonton Oilers and the Philadelphia Flyers, but so far this one, as far as drama and quality of play, might be right there with it. It has been outstanding. All right, so let's get to what we have on the program here today, live from the Delta Hotel in downtown Toronto. Daily Outline powered by FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And coming up on the program today in a couple of moments, Gardiner MacDougall. I can't wait for this. Gardiner MacDougall is going to stop by here, the head coach of Moncton in the CHL and the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, who just won the CHL's Coach of the Year. He will be aboard. Landon DuPont, who you'll be hearing plenty of come 2027 draft. The Rookie of the Year in the CHL, he will stop by. Matthew Schaefer, whose name you're going to hear in about 10 days or so. Matthew Schaefer, the Defenseman of the Year in the CHL, he's going to stop by. He'll be first overall, folks, let's face it. Dan McKenzie, the president of the CHL, will stop by as well. We'll talk about the CHL Awards themselves, and we'll also talk a little bit more about Game 4 as we stand by for Gardiner MacDougall. Have we seen the last of Stuart Skinner? Safe to say that this is Calvin Pickard's net now, period. And what a story this has been. I mean, he was a second-round pick of the Colorado Avalanche. His brother, Chet Pickard, was a first-round draft pick, and it seemed as if there was a yellow brick road out in front of him. Calvin banged it out in the minors, here and there in the NHL, a game here, a game there. And we always talk about players that are being players that are resilient and don't quit. Like these are the players we should be lauding. This is why we love sports. It's for stories like Calvin Pickard. You know, I know I might be in the minority on this one, but I was one of those guys that didn't ever want Peter Forsberg to retire. You know, wanted Peter Forsberg to always try to find that magic boot that fits, as everybody around the NHL was screaming, oh, he's diminishing his reputation. Oh, think of the legacy. To me, the legacy of Peter Forsberg was the guy that didn't quit. And as long as someone was going to give him a job, he was going to keep on playing hockey. Maybe it's one of the reasons why we're really learning to love Corey Perry here. He doesn't want to seem to slow down either. But the one thing about hockey, and really the one thing about all sports in a lot of ways, it always gives you a reason to quit. And I can't help thinking that this game has given Calvin Pickard so many opportunities to pack it in. Has given Calvin Pickard so many opportunities to say, you know what, it's time to grow up and get a grown-up job and and not just play hockey my entire life. And every single time that there was a speed bump for Calvin Pickard, he jumped over it. I don't know if the Edmonton Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The probability now is probably 51% Edmonton, 49% Florida. Maybe Florida has an edge in quality of team and certainly depth of forwards, but Edmonton's got 2 home games in this one. I don't know who's going to win this still. To me, this is still a jump ball. All I know is it's going to be with Calvin Pickard in net. And part of the reason why I think we all love him is the way that he plays. Like, is there a little ball hockey in there? Like you're watching him play last night coming in cold? Kind of ball hockey goaltender making ball hockey saves, right? There's someone behind the camera right now. Stephen L. is smiling at that idea, the ball hockey goaltender. Any takeaways, major takeaways from you, Zach, from last night's game? I mean, Leon was the hero. The comeback was great. I thought Podkolzin was excellent. He was a story in the Vegas series, was a story last night. Great pass. What did it for you, Zach?
The timing and the way that he went about it, Chris Knobloch with the pull of Stuart Skinner and then going to Calvin Pickard. It wasn't just a pull, an auto pull.
Yeah.
We made a lot of the story that happened with Pete DeBoer in the Dallas series and how things went down with him and Jake Ottinger.
Yeah.
Could have made a big scene about it. Could have said, hey, that's it for you. We got to shake things up. Calls him out in front of the team. Does it quietly, and it ends up being a turning point. Like, Calvin Pickard came in. He played incredibly last night, but I thought it was just one of those, like, calm moments by a guy who has a calm demeanor and has kind of carried that through the entire playoffs. You saw it when they were down in the LA series. You saw it even, like, even in that 1 second left goal against the Vegas Golden Knights by Riley Smith. They cut to Chris Knobloch, and he's just like, all right, on to the next. There's no change. Win a game, lose a game, keeps it going. And you could just see that in that moment. There was no panic from him. Down 3-0 early in the first period. No problem for him.
Everybody on that bench, every Oilers fan in that arena, everybody watching on television or streaming, wherever you're watching this, everybody in Edmonton, just a massive sigh of relief when Draisaitl scored that goal. But no one more relieved than Connor McDavid, channeling his inner Nathan MacKinnon, refusing to smile until this is all done, as he's leaving the bench as the game is over and Leon scores in overtime. All I could think was, the weight of the world is off Connor McDavid's shoulder briefly, and it'll be back on again as the venue shifts to Edmonton, and it is now a best out of 3. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, the first of numerous CHL guests. Gardiner caught in my throat. Gardiner MacDougall joins us here, head coach of Moncton. How are you, Gardiner? Thanks so much for stopping by. Much appreciated. So I was flying in from Florida today, and I'm thinking, I'm talking to Gardiner MacDougall. I want to hear Gardiner MacDougall tell stories, but like coaching stories. And congratulations, by the way, on coaching. I don't think anyone is surprised at that, by the way. My favorite coach story is the Fred Shiro bacon and egg story. I don't know if you ever heard the bacon and egg story.
I have heard the bacon and eggs, but maybe not with
Fred. With Fred, the team gets waxed on Saturday night against Pittsburgh. Not a single puck hits the ice. The next day he comes in the room, draws a plate. draws 3 strips of bacon and 2 eggs and says, you guys are talking about the contributions you made last night, all the contributions. This is what I had for breakfast. This is what I expect out of you as a Philadelphia Flyer. The chicken made a contribution, but the pig made a commitment. That was Fred Shero. That was his way of getting to his players. Do you have like a favorite coach or pet sayings or any sort of coach wisdom that you like to impart to kids?
I think there's a number that come up throughout the season. A lot of times it's spontaneous.
Yeah.
It's from different stories. In the past, I've been lucky to be at this for a while. I read a lot.
What do you read? I'm curious. Let me park that for a second. What interests you?
High performance books on teams or players. I probably read more basketball or football books and hockey books. It seems that, like John Wooden, I probably read 10 of his books.
Okay.
And then at a used bookstore in Moncton, I found another one in the fall this year that I didn't have. And guys like Nick Saban, with Alabama, the success they had. But then Clemson got hot, so you like to read about their coach. And I think in the business world, sometimes you like to read about high performers in the business world. I think there's qualities of high performance that are transferable over not only to sport but to business and to life. So Robin Sharma is a guy that I've read all his books from. The Monk That Stole the Ferrari was his first seller.
Oh, yeah.
And I get a weekly update from him. He's a guy from Cape Breton Island that was a law student at Dalhousie and got bored with law, and I'd say he's probably the number one motivational speaker in the world now. So I'll get a weekly thing from him. But one of the things, we kind of changed some of this, but consistency is the mother of excellence, and incremental improvement is the father. And we'll talk to our teams a lot about that.
I'm glad you got it. You brought it to your team. I'm curious because we keep hearing about kids have short attention spans. Like, look, I got 3 kids too. I know that at a certain point they check out. Now, part of that is just because it's dad talking to them, and they'll be more in tune to their coaches talking to them. They'll stick with it longer. But how receptive, and maybe for how long, are the kids receptive to your messages? And do you know when they're starting to tune out a little bit?
I think I do a lot of talks to businesses, presentation. I guess I'm more of a presenter than a talker, and I've tried to study what makes a top-notch presenter and things like that, and I've had lots of experience of that. And it's interesting. I mean, it didn't work out how we wanted it, but in our Memorial Cup semifinal, Luke Medill, who's a former player of mine, former assistant coach, he spent his 3 years. We told him he came to UNB to get his real degree after 4 years at McGill. And and his dad was a former player at UNB and still holds a record, 7 goals in 1 game, Herb Medill. But Luke has worked with us all year, and he's unbelievable in sports psychology field of what he does. He teaches at St. Andrews School in Toronto there. But it's fairly in-depth, done the World Juniors, does Hockey Canada, and we brought him in, finished his last class on Wednesday at St. Andrews, and so we flew him in the next morning to Rimouski, and he had a chance to speak to our group, and by Zoom all year. He's spoken to our group all year, but it was great to get him live. And then we had him in prior to our game, our game prep, and our game prep, I think, is maybe a little bit maybe not unusual, but some of the things we do. But we have each coach talk a little bit, and I'm always, as you mentioned, on I think simplicity is the ultimate source of sophistication. And how simple can we make something? And a lot of times in the coaching world, and especially practice-wise, a lot of coaches like to go to the board and probably prove how smart we are. Complicated.
I don't know what you're talking about, Gardiner. I've never seen that out of a coach. I don't know.
So and we talked about that, but he was amazed. I was fortunate to have tremendous staff. I think the award I got today was coach is really the staff of the year, and the staff of the year to me extends to our owner Robert Irving, because he's the head of the staff, and he's just unbelievable. The environment he provides and the opportunity he provides for our team, our organization, and certainly our coaching staff. But Luke came in, and Dustin Friesen, who did an amazing job as an associate coach. He'll kind of have the pre-scout. Antoine Samuel, I can't say enough about a goalie coach, a video coach. He does a pre-scout. Just a phenomenal person, and what he lent. And then Doug Dowell, a longtime pro player, did a tremendous job. And everyone had their little niche.
Yeah.
And he was just so amazed. He said, it's probably, I remember in the NHL you'd hear about video sessions trying to be 5 minutes or less at the NHL level.
Yep.
And I don't know if you can say on time, because I think if you change the environment, we start with maybe a video, one person talks, another person would have a different topic, and then maybe the environment changes that. And so I don't know if you can say, hey, you got to be 4 minutes or less or 5 minutes. I'm always, hey, we got to be short and we got to be to the point,
right?
That type of stuff. But I thought our group did a really, really good job of doing that. That being said, we started miserably all 4 games at the Memorial Cup. So usually at UNB, I think we're well known for starting fast and starting on time. And so that's my summer project. What the heck happened for that first period? Because if we take care of the first period, the second, third, we're usually pretty good. So that's my summer project.
You mentioned the Memorial Cup. There's one thing that I do want to ask you about, and I understand if it's private between the coach and the players, but that huddle at the end with your group, that's pretty unique. I remember watching this. We're like, well, it's Gardiner MacDougall, so we should expect something different. But that one was really unique for me, and I think really unique for a lot of people.
Yeah, that moment is the worst moment performance-wise of these guys' careers, because the goal is to go to the Memorial Cup and win it.
Yeah.
So it's not only for a staff, but heartbreaking, for these players. And it was just, we had a lot of fans that came to Rimouski, and a lot of fans are watching on TV and things like that. So just acknowledgement. I always say we've got to try to make a significant difference, and we're really performers. And we talk a lot about whether it was Wayne Gretzky said it or Michael Jordan said it. Like every time you play, and the original Michael Jordan video that they did, the highlight video, I think he says it on it, but it's been attributed to Wayne Gretzky several times. Like, you're playing, someone's watching you for the first time tonight, and someone's watching you for the last time tonight. And it was interesting, Dylan Gill, who we acquired in a trade at Christmas, and Spencer Gill, who plays for Rimouski, they played against one another in, I think, January in Moncton. And we talk about that different times. This was pretty neat. The two brothers going to play against one another, big game. And we didn't play as well that game. We didn't have as much belief as we needed. We acquired more belief as we played them later on in the year. But Dylan came to me later that next week, and he said, Coach, I just want to let you know, we had a lady that's been with her family for a long time. She's like a second grandmother. And she was so excited to be able to come and watch Spencer and I play this game. The next day, she was in her 80s. The next day, she had a heart attack and passed away. But she was so excited that, and it's pretty neat that you always said someone's watching for the first time, someone's watching for the last time. Little did we know it'd be like that. But they took it as a positive, the Gill family, that she got to watch the both of you play a game against one another, and she was so pleased when she left the arena. So part of that little scrum was just to acknowledge, hey, this is special. We'll get a chance in the dressing room, but there's a lot of people that drove to Moncton. A lot of parents came here. They're still cheering you. They're because of who you are. You're part of the Moncton Wildcats, but you're special people. So we just, even though we're in Rimouski, we just take a moment to acknowledge these people that have given so much for each and every one of you, and for our team.
That's really thoughtful. That really is. And one of the players, and we're going to hear plenty more about him leading up to the end of June in Los Angeles, Caleb Denoyer. What can the coach tell us about someone who's going to be drafted top 10, maybe top 5 in a couple weeks here?
Yeah, just I don't know if special is overused word, but he's special. And he's elite special. And I was fortunate at the under 18 to get a chance to coach him, and initially it wasn't going to be that long because he was an underage, and then it was tough to lose Roger McQueen, but Caleb Denoyer got a chance to play full time in that tournament, and played with Martone and played with McKinnon, did a really good job as an underage, in that tournament for us, and didn't know at that time I'm going to be his full-time coach in Moncton, but it worked out, and got the job, and certainly the first call to a player I made would be to Caleb, and I think there was something came out. I think we had beat Sweden and going to the gold medal final, and our good RDS had put something out, the new coach of the Moncton Wildcats, and of course Caleb's a curiosity, full of curiosity. The next day, is this true, coach? I said, let's win today.
Talk about that after. We'll talk about that after.
But he changes things when he comes to the rink every day. He's just got such a magnetic personality. He's a team first guy, and he's just so engaged. He walks in the rink and our team gets better.
Yeah.
And when you go through a long season like this, and he had the Hockey Canada. It seems every time he goes to Hockey Canada, he gets banged up. We love the experience, but he went to Olinka. He got banged up there. He played really well. I got to watch on TV at that, and he come back. So we rested him. We wanted him. He's a key part of our team. Yeah. So we gave him some time. Our first game of the season, our home opener, he separated his shoulder. So, again, he's out for a bit. We just got him going again really good. He went up to the Prospects game and had a tremendous second game, I thought. Not the first game, but he texted me, he said, I'll be the real Caleb today, and in true to form he is, and got banged up again. And if you check our stats, I didn't play much center after that. He played through an injury till Christmas. We had a little bit of time at Christmas and, to rest it up. And then in January, had somewhat similar injury on the other. So he played both wrists banged up all year. So he's got a tremendous amount of grit to him.
Yeah.
But he's just a difference maker. And he loves the game. No moment's too big for him. And he's made a significant difference for our team. He's just one of those elite special people that as you'll find in LA is going to be in the elite number where he gets drafted.
He certainly will. I want to ask you a couple more things. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up a very unique situation that you find yourself in with your son Taylor. We always think of father-son combinations in hockey. We think of the Howes, for example. Playing with Mark and Marty, look at Gordy, beaming like a proud parent. What's it like working with your son in the role that he has with Moncton?
Yeah, it's one of those lifetime moments. How many, we got a lot of, you go across the country, we got a lot of dads that are into hockey. A lot of them work in hockey, a lot of them are minor hockey coaches, a lot have played the game, millions have probably played the game in their country and they get that opportunity. And I was fortunate to coach him at UNB for 5 years. And I don't know if my wife always agreed with the amount of ice time I gave him, but and it wasn't easy, obviously the program we had at UNB, the step in that, and he had a role with us that was part of team success. And I still remember we were playing the national championships in Halifax, and we were playing St. Mary's in the national semifinal. We were down 5-on-3. We have different guys that can go out there. He was, very great face-off guy, and I remember putting him out in the 5-on-3. And, there was a coach in me, okay, this is the right thing, but there was a dad in me, my God, son, please. Because there's a no-win almost. If he kills it off, he's supposed to. If he doesn't, what did the coach do that? But that was one moment, and we ended up winning the national championship that year. And it was so gratifying, as a coach's son. But so that experience at 5 years was phenomenal. This is a different venue, different avenue. I mean, obviously what he's done in his career has been phenomenal. He got to play the CHL for 5 years, got snuck 1 year in. It was interesting. He was doing his law degree, business and law, usually 7 years. He did his 5. While playing, and I was just so impressed. How do you do this?
Pat Quinn. So Pat Quinn did.
Pat
Quinn did. That's great.
Yeah, so just phenomenal. And then, he snuck in. I remember he was just about to write his law exams, his final year, and he finished up his 5th year at UNB, and he made his own calls up to the Brantford Battalion. Dad, I'm gonna go up there. I got 10 days before I write my exams. I can play 3 or 4 games of pro here. And that's I remember awesome. I was down in Portland. We had played Portland that year, and I'd been a good friend of the coach there. I had journeyed to Portland to watch them play weekend games, and then he had texted me and said, "Listen, Dad, I'm making my debut in Adirondack tomorrow. I'm on the bus right now with David Ling."
Oh, David Ling. Yeah. Oh, I haven't heard that name in forever.
So David Ling and I are
one
on
of my
bus.
favorites.
Yeah, we're driving from Brampton to Adirondack. So I looked on my map. I said, okay, as a dad, you got to be there for the pros.
Yeah.
So I didn't only watch one game in Portland. I went through the mountains of New York State, and I arrived in Adirondack. And we had 2 other UNB guys playing in that game. So that was neat. But then becoming an NHL player agent and just the mentorship of Lanois. He was Taylor's agent as a player. Became a really good family
great
friend.
Agent. He's a wonderful guy. You know all this.
Oh, yes, yeah. So, to give him that opportunity, he had done 1 year of his articling in law and was set, he was on the dark side, criminal defense, and, he was, going to Dorchester Penitentiary, meeting with Hell's Angels guys, and I we talked all the time as a major junior player every day. Yeah. I almost talked more when he was criminal defense lawyer. Okay, what did you do today? Who did you represent today? Yeah. And he was, going to try that law, and then Land gave him the opportunity to work with him, and, the years that he had there was, interesting. I'd give him a call. Where are you at? I'm in Broadway Street, Nashville today, or I'm in Vegas seeing a player today, or I'm following Jake Allen today. I'm going to see him. So, and I remember, the last couple of weeks here, obviously a busy time of year with the draft, the NCAA coming up with the possible, and he said, one thing, he said, I'm really thankful that I was a player agent and made the connections and the experience I got from Alan. And now as a general manager, it's helped me so much now being a general manager.
I believe that.
And I think, just, his collaboration, his connection with players. I remember our first meeting this year, he spoke to the group and he said, we have to be the tightest team going. At UNB, we won national championships and our team was really tight. Guys would, give up a specific role for the good of the team, and the more success the team had, the more success individuals had, and that was one of the things. When to grow the culture in Moncton, and that was a big part of it. Is just having the group really connected, and we did surveys at the end of the year, and on every survey was just a family in Moncton, and we call it FOE, family over everything, and your own family is the most important, and obviously we went through, circumstances at the Memorial Cup that, tested that. That's for sure. And I was a little late coming here to this function because we had a really special ceremony in Fredericton yesterday for Pat Buckley. Nice. And so that's always the most important. But then the next is, the Wildcat family, or whatever organization you're with. Is that family over everything? And I think we really accelerated that process and advanced how important your teammate is and how important the organization. And I go back to Mr. Irving, he's just the biggest proponent of that.
He seems like, and I think I may have met him once. He seems like the kind of owner who, if you need something / want something, you'll get it.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
I know you make the case. I know you make the case for it.
Yeah, you make a case, but he's unbelievable.
But if you can demonstrate that this is what this team needs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I, for 24 years I was on the outside, and I had good friends that worked in the organization, and you'd always hear different things and all that. But my first month on the job, I was invited to a neat event in Moncton. I had four former premiers of New Brunswick were on a panel. Yeah. And it was all for the homeless and food support in the city. And, Mr. Irvin had made a big donation to that group. And then, we had our golf tournament. He gives $25,000 to a young group. And $50,000. He's going to have $1 million given in 10 years to them, And then he was over to PEI and he gave a big amount to the farmers in PEI.
That's amazing.
Like in a 2 or 3 week brand. And most of the stuff he does under radar. But he's an amazing person. His business interests. He could be flying to Europe. He could be out to North Dakota. He has a big plant down in Georgia. During the tariffs with Canada and the U.S., he spent 2 weeks in Washington. And then he finds a way. He never missed a playoff game of ours. He just has such passion for life, for making a difference with people. And then obviously the Wildcats is real passion.
It's passion.
Yeah.
When I let me close on this one with you, Gardiner, and I thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. No.
earlier when I brought up Coach of the Year, you talked about your staff. You talked about everybody on the bench. And last year, 6 months ago, I read music producer Rick Rubin's book on creativity. And his point is that no one does anything on their own. He said everything, whether it's music or whatever, everything's a collaboration. You're part of everything you've listened to, every conversation you've had, every interaction you've had, every, in this case, game you've watched, for example. First of all, do you agree with the idea that everything in our lives is a collaboration? And if so, who have some of your influences been on the way up? That whether you realize it or not, you're collaborating with their ideas.
Yeah, I think it really accurate and really true when you look at, we've been fortunate to have some success here of late, maybe a little more prominent. And I don't know if you got country music fans, Luke Combs, when it rains, it pours. And I've been fortunate to have a lot of positive success, and I said, just hope there's still some left in the back pocket.
You're the winning machine, Gardiner. That's what they call you.
Yeah, but I think you're truly right, because you have enough experiences, but you need everybody. The team. We talk about the strength of the team as a team, and we got that at UNB, because we get a lot of players that would come to UNB, 60, 70-point guys, and they never ever asked, am I on the first line or the second line?
Right.
And I spent a lot of time on the recruitment and all that type of stuff, and we want the same thing, and it's tougher to do at this age group. 16 to 19, there's a shorter window.
Yep.
Every player, the goal is to make the NHL. And to make the NHL, you got to get drafted. And to get drafted, you got to have a lot of ice time, So I thought the group really played into the roles. And I was talking to, I didn't have one knock on my door this year about a player coming in and saying, hey, I need more ice time. I had some talks on the ice, and I try to keep the business on the ice a lot of times. But okay, what's my role, or and that's all part of it. But and I think Taylor probably has helped out a lot as a GM and found which stuff to come through to me and which not. And I think, as I said, did an amazing job of that. But I think all these little experience, and even as a player, we talked about Caleb. Caleb's had such an unbelievable career and win, and then through the playoffs, and part of it was with the injuries, part of it's a long season, and he didn't have the production, and he wants to be the guy every night, and that's the special thing about him. And the one thing, and I used to always I watched Crosby when he was young, and in the Quebec Major Junior League, and rarely did he have a game where he didn't get a point, but when he didn't get a point, it was often multi-points the next night.
Right.
And those special players, they have that special talent. Okay, you may have stopped me once,
but
you're
not
stopped
twice.
me. Yeah, and they just have that special ingredient. And Caleb, he went a little extended, through the playoffs, and then because I remember he came. 3 games I haven't got a point. I don't know when this has happened. And I said, hey, let's work on this together. And, hey, this will be good for you in the big picture. We're still winning.
I was going to say, I'm listening to you say this, your team was 1 or 2 in the country all year long. That kind of helps.
Yeah, no question.
Tough to complain about the program.
Been really lucky. But, I think that it's the chance to just grow and going back, our motto at UNB was make a significant difference, the university motto. I've tried to, since I got to UNB, I said, what a great philosophy to live your life. How can I make a difference in somebody else's life? And whether, obviously, hockey's what we do, but even seeing, I go for a run in the streets in Toronto this morning. Well, I'm saying hello to everybody. I got a few weird reactions, and then I got some people actually.
Yeah, we don't do that here. We don't do that. We're not in the Maritimes.
But actually, I was amazed today down on the waterfront. I got a lot of smiles.
You did,
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's part of life. I mean, our job as coaches is to serve. And our staff is to serve our players, and in turn, our players to serve the community and make things special for Moncton Wildcats.
This has been a real delight. Congratulations again. Not just you, because I know you want to put your staff, the full bench of the year. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Yeah,
all the best.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Much appreciated. The CHL Coach of the Year is Gardiner MacDougall. We have a couple more guests still to come here on the program from the CHL Awards here at the Delta in downtown Toronto, where Gardiner MacDougall actually got runners in Toronto to smile at him. If you know anything about running in Toronto, that is no easy feat. But then again, Gardiner MacDougall is a very unique person behind the bench, and as you probably just saw as well in life, just like an infectious personality. A wonderful coach, has the ability to connect with young hockey players. You talk a lot about University of New Brunswick, where he was wildly successful. Don't forget as well, he won a Memorial Cup with St. John. The Sea Dogs was parachuted in essentially for the tournament. And the Sea Dogs ended up winning the Memorial Cup, and a lot of it was based on the work that he did. And, I'll tell you, like, many people do wonder if somewhere one day down the road, and maybe even sooner than later, if Gardiner MacDougall ends up somewhere on an NHL bench. Now, I still do believe that there's going to be a long run as the U20 World Junior Hockey Championship coach for Gardiner MacDougall with Hockey Canada. But, there have been a couple of people. I remember talking to one team, and I brought up Gardiner's name. And what came back to me was, oh, yeah, he's on a list. Don't worry, he's definitely on a list. One of the hardest things to do now with young players is to connect with them and be able to speak their language. And he has this unique ability to connect, and as you probably just saw, to connect and speak to just about anybody. Young hockey players, grown-ups, adult hockey players. That's just Gardiner MacDougall. And everywhere he's gone, he has won. They won the Q Championships this year. Came up a little bit short in the Memorial Cup. But as we've mentioned before on the program, I still maintain this. That is the hardest hockey trophy to win. You have a window that at best is 4 years to win that thing. And probably it's 3, and more probably it's 2 to win that thing. Everything in your hockey life has to click and connect all at the right time that it does with everybody else on your team if you're going to win the Memorial Cup. Toughest trophy to win in hockey, in my estimation. So to come on the program today, Dan McKenzie is going to stop by. He's the president of the Canadian Hockey League. We had Dan on not too long ago, and a couple of follow-ups for Dan, a sort of snapshot of where things are at right now. And not just with players leaving to go to college, but also players leaving other junior programs to go to the CHL, I think is an interesting one as well. And the nature of the competition for recruiting now is a little bit different because it's no longer either or, it's this and. So it's CHL and college hockey. How does the CHL respond to that in what they expect of all of their franchises by way of enhancing the player experience? So we'll get into that with Dan McKenzie coming up a little bit later on. Matthew Schaefer is going to stop by, Defenseman of the Year in the CHL, the presumptive first overall draft pick this year's NHL draft. So we'll talk to Matthew Schaefer, defenseman for the Erie Otters, coming up in a little bit, and also Landon DuPont is going to be stopping by here in a couple of moments, I believe. Who do we have coming up, Chris? Landon DuPont is coming up here. We'll get him. We'll get him up. So this is a name, folks, you're going to hear a lot of in the next couple of years. He's a CHL Rookie of the Year. He's just getting wired up now and getting on set. An incredible young athlete who was granted exceptional status to get into the Western Hockey League early. Plays with the Everett Silvertips and is part of this incredible skill wave coming out of the Western Hockey League. Please welcome to the program someone whose name you're going to hear a lot in the next few years, Landon DuPont. Landon, thanks so much for stopping by. How are you? And congratulations on the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, thank you.
How do you feel?
Feels great. Yeah, obviously it's a huge honor to win that award, and I'm happy.
I'm going to bring this mic right in there. I'm always curious about the exceptional status phenomenon. Michael Misa is here as well. He was granted exceptional status into the OHL. What was that process like for you? Because it's not just can he play at that level in the Western Hockey League. There's more to it than that. Is he mature enough? Can he handle this? Like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah, it was a long process. Obviously, halfway through, obviously my U18 season. Yep. My agents kind of just said, like, hey, you want to try this out? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then it's a long process. You apply for it, and then we'd Zoom calls, and just like you said, to see if you were mature enough. And then you would kind of write a nice long essay about why you think you should be granted for it. And
What do you remember from that essay? I'm going to ask that one. What did you put in there when you defended yourself?
Well, they just asked, like, how are you going to do, like, moving away at such a young age, and how are you going to do if you were to get into a slump and stuff like that. So I was just trying to be myself and trying to be as honest as possible, and then lucky enough, it went my way.
One of the advantages that second-generation hockey players have, and you know this, your father played in the NHL, Mickey DuPont, is there are some things that you don't have to learn because you already know it because you grew up in a hockey family. Whether it's, who gets off the bus first, who checks in at the hotel first, like all those tiny little protocol things, you didn't have to learn those.
Yeah.
Like the second-generation hockey player phenomenon, I don't know if you noticed it. From our perch, we always see it. But did you feel that you had a sort of leg up on everybody else who is entering the league at the same time as you?
Yeah, I think so. Like, just some of the little things, like you said, like just who's getting off the bus first. But I think most importantly is, like, for me, from my dad and having an older brother, I learned the compete side of things the most. And, I hate to lose. And I feel like just having that competitive lifestyle, like not even just hockey, just my whole life is I'm competitive. I'm a competitive person. I always want to win if I can, and I hate losing. So I feel like having that and learning that at a young age really helped me.
So I'm curious what it feels like when your highlights started to make their way around social media. Like, I'll tell you, I've got my oldest boy is a 2010, and I always know what you're doing because he always sends me clips. It's like, oh yeah, Dad, you see this DuPont video? Dad, you see what DuPont did? So like, if I'm getting it, all the kids are sending it around. What was it like when you realized that kids are sending all these incredible hockey videos of you around? Is it weird?
It was weird at first because it didn't really hit you. You kind of see it and you're like, oh, like it's almost a little like, whoa, kind of sets you back a little bit. And then as it happens more and more, it becomes more normal. And it's cool, but I just like to zone that stuff out and just play the game that I love. And I'm not playing for those highlights and not playing for anything. I'm just playing the game I love and doing it with the teammates and having fun. What's
Everett like? That's a powerhouse organization.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great city. It's right on the outskirts of Seattle and right on the water there. So it's really nice. Lots of trees and everything. And then the organization's just awesome. Like, they take care of their players so well, and our coaching staff, our trainers, everything, just our front office, like they put so much time and effort into everything, and and they make it royalty for us players.
As a young athlete, what do you need from a team? Like, what really helps you?
I think just support and resources. Like, we have places to shoot pucks, we have places to work out, we have skill sessions, we have guys that if we're injured, they can work on us. They have massage therapists. They have everything a junior player ever could dream of, and just having that resource really helps us.
How often are you shooting pucks?
Well, I like to stay on one of the last guys off every practice. I kind of set that bar for myself, and I like to shoot pucks then. And then me and my billet brothers, we have a super deker at home, and we shoot pucks.
You still use a super deker?
Yeah, we.
Everybody was going insane in Canada for super dekers like 3 years ago. You couldn't get them at Pro Hockey Life anywhere.
I know. I live with two forwards, so they're pretty good at the super deker stuff. I'm a D-man, so I'm still trying to get my numbers up.
What's your record number?
Oh, not good. I think like 70 or something.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. But my billet brothers make me feel stupid. They're in the 90s or something.
When it comes to shooting as a defenseman now, in general, like Evan Bouchard's kind of a freak, the back scratch and slap shot, like it's from a different era, and if you have it, like that's great. But now it seems to be more just about sifters and getting it through, and waiting for your screen and getting it to net. When you work on shooting, what are you working on?
Just like you said, just sifting it on net. Like, nowadays the goalies are so good that it's hard to beat them clean, and sometimes that 100-mile-an-hour shot, it's hard to tip. So I think for our forwards, like, I talk to them and just be like, what do you like? And then obviously they obviously told me that they like the sifters that are, kind of waist high, so that the goalies kind of reach for it and then they can tip it one way or, fake the tip and hopefully find a lane.
That's really when John Klingberg first came to North America and played with the Dallas Stars. I remember James Richmond, who's a head coach of Brampton in the OHL, because he was in Sweden. He said he would like shoot high from the point, and guys would be like ducking for cover and getting out of the way. But it seems as if now I remember talking to someone with a team who said we tell all of our defensemen to shoot it hip high because they're either going to deflect up or they're going to deflect down. Like, I'm from the era, and a lot of us are all from the era that shots from the point had to be low and along the ice.
Yeah.
Right along the ice, and the forwards will provide that ramp, and that's the only way that you're going to do it. But now more and more, it does seem, it's interesting you mentioned shooting at hip height. More teams are doing that, and more defensemen are doing that. Is that new, or is that something that you've always done, shooting at hip height?
Well, it's something I've always done just because I like to go high at a young age. But
how many of your teammates screamed at you for firing high from the point?
I was always that D-man that was hitting guys in the head and stuff. But as I moved up, obviously I started shooting lower and lower, and obviously because that's what the forwards want. They want that ramp. And then when I got to junior, my head coach actually kind of explained it to us D-man, and he was showing if you shoot it upper half of the net, makes the goalie reach for it, and then when they reach for it, you can either tip it into one of their holes if you're a forward, or you just beat them clean by a screen. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I feel like that translates, even just watching the NHL and the Stanley Cup playoffs, I feel like you see that lots.
Who are your favorites? Favorite players to watch? Favorite players growing up?
I love Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, Drew Doughty when I was a little kid.
Oh yeah.
And Steve Boyum. He's a young guy. I love watching him. He's so silky. He's so good. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah, he really is. One of the things that I'm always curious about players, and specifically players that achieve status of exceptional status. Did this game come easy to you? Were you sort of born to do this, and at which point did you realize this is going to be more than just a hobby for you? How old were you when you realized, or your parents realized, this is more than just going to be something for the kid to do in his spare time?
Yeah, I just remember my dad playing hockey in Europe overseas, and I remember I'd be a little kid and I'd be watching his games, and I just loved the rink. I used to always just be in the rink on the ice, playing mini sticks with a sock over a blade, just all that little stuff. And so I think my parents saw how much I loved hockey, and I think they never really forced me into anything. They never forced me to do anything. So I was always just kind of willingly just trying to work on my game. And then as I got older, I fell in love with it even more and kept building my game.
What and maybe for some players it's stick, for some players it's skates, for some NHLers it's I'm wearing the same shoulder pads I did when I was 14 years old. Is there one piece of your equipment that you're just fanatical about? Or does it even matter? I'll put skates on out of the box, no big deal.
No, it's probably my skates. Skating's so important, and I've been using the Bauer Vapor skates my whole life. I can never switch out of those. They're such great skates, and I don't think I could ever get used to another pair, and so I feel like that's probably mine.
What is it about the Vapors do you like so much?
I feel like you just feel like you have hop with them. You feel like you have that pop, that extra stride, that extra gear in you. I tried some CCM skates once, and they just didn't feel the same.
It's tough switching, hey?
I know. Once
so
you start
tough.
somewhere, it's so hard to switch.
How often do you get a chance to watch NHL?
I try to every night. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Did you watch the overtime last night?
I did.
What'd you think?
That was crazy. I like to just sit down and while I'm eating dinner or something, I like to just have it on in the background, just watch, and then obviously just watching highlights and stuff like that. But you can't just watch highlights. You got to watch whole games because that's what you need.
I can't. Again, I'm going to sound like a hockey dad here, but this is what I keep telling my kids too. Because I'll tell you, like TJ, my oldest, I sound like let me sound like a hockey dad. My 2010 sends me all these videos of you, and I keep reminding him, like, yeah, DuPont's awesome, but watch a full game.
Yeah.
Like, it's all that stuff in between all the highlights. Like, that's where the game is.
Yeah.
Let me close on this. For any young defenseman, like, what kind of advice would you give them about how to play the game? Like, what are things, like the unsexy things that you need to work on if you're going to improve? Everyone can, watch the end-to-end rushes and all these types of things, but like, what are the things that you think young defenders should work on?
I think it's just like, goes back to that compete, like wanting to win and wanting to do anything for your team, like whether it's blocking a big shot or making a big hit to set the tone for your team. I feel like just wanting to do things for the sake of your team and not just for the sake of yourself is a biggest thing. And then just skating's the most important.
That's it, right?
Skating's the most important thing in hockey. So I think just work on your skating and you'll be valuable.
We have someone coming up here in a couple of moments in Matthew Schaefer, who's a pretty special skater. I'm sure you've had a look at him a couple of different times.
Yeah.
What do you see? Let me close on that one. What do you see in Matthew Schaefer when you watch him?
Man, he's special. He's going to be obviously you see his draft's coming up. He's going to be a generational D-man. He's some team's going to get very lucky when they pick him, and
it's going to be a team that rhymes with New York Islanders.
Yeah,
that's who's going to get Matthew Schaefer. He's got first overall written all over him all day.
Yeah, I think they'd be stupid if they didn't pick him because, and he's just so mature off the ice as well. Like, obviously meeting him today, and obviously he's been through a lot, but just seeing what he does every day, like with the kids and everything, and then
it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You're awesome. Thanks so much for this.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
on winning the Rookie of the Year. It looks great on you, and look forward to my kids sending me more highlight videos of you. I don't think I'm the only dad whose sons send them highlight videos of Landon DuPont. You see what DuPont did? Did you see that video of DuPont? Did you see that video of DuPont? Anyway, that is a very talented young man. Granted exceptional status into the Western Hockey League. He is the CHL's Rookie of the Year, Landon DuPont. And from one great young defenseman to another great young defenseman, we're going to bring aboard Matthew Schaefer here in a couple of minutes. And it's rare that someone who doesn't play an entire full season is still head and shoulders above everybody else in his draft class, with all due respect to Michael Misa, and distinguishes themselves as a number one overall pick. But that's what Matthew Schaefer has done. I've said it before. I never thought I would ever see anyone skate like Jay Bouwmeester again. Matthew Schaefer skates like Jay Bouwmeester. I'm telling you, he's a remarkable athlete if you haven't seen him play. Matthew Schaefer from the Erie Otters, the CHL's Defenseman of the Year, joins me now. Matthew, thanks so much. It's great to see you again.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Been good.
Busy,
good.
Hey?
Yeah, really busy. I mean, combine to Florida.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not complaining. Going to a Stanley Cup game, so in Florida too. So got a little tan on, but also got to watch a good game.
I got on the 5 o'clock flight this morning to make it here. So last night's game was a buzz.
Yeah.
Last night's game was a trip. Like I'm curious because, look, we all expect you're going to go first overall. You're going to play in the NHL. You're going to be a major impact player. Landon DuPont's here saying, generational defenseman. We haven't seen someone. I keep telling you that, I keep telling people that I don't think that I was ever going to see someone skate like Jay Bouwmeester until I saw you skate. I'm like, this kid is remarkable. Yeah. Are you at the place now where mentally you can say, I'm ready for that next level? Like, I can see myself, like when you're in Florida, I can see myself with the Oilers, with the Panthers, playing in the Stanley Cup Final. Are you there?
Yeah. Obviously, this summer's going to be massive for me. Working out in the gym with NHL players, getting pushed by, Sean Monahan, Scott Lawton, Kadri, all those guys. So I think just being in that environment helps you a lot because you get to see, the things they do to be their best at that next level and how they train. And my D coach is Mark Giordano, so I'll be learning a lot from him. I told him when I got there, my ears are wide open, and he's just going to be telling me things I need to know, because I want to, hear everything he has to say, so when I get to that next level, I'll be ready. And my goal is to be ready to that next level at the end of the summer.
What, there's always, gym work, certainly, but what do you think you still need to work on? I mean, people watch your game and we come away and say, I don't know, he looked great. What am I supposed to say?
Honestly, I just want to be an all-around player. I think, my D zone can always get better. Maybe boxing guys a little bit earlier. O zone, getting shots through. My shot can always, be improved on, and there's always things I can improve on. Ending zones sooner. I mean, there's always going to be things that I can work on, and there's going to be things that I'm pretty good at, but I want to be really good at. So for me, when people are like, oh, you do this good, well, I want to do it that much better. And, you can always do it better than you do. And I look to progress each and every day.
It wasn't the season that you hoped for, clearly. I was in the rink when you went into the net, and we all cringed and watching you go off. No one wanted to say it, but we're like, this one looks bad.
Yeah.
When it first happened, did you know?
Yeah, so to run it down, because I know the big question is, did you see the post? And maybe next time I'll maybe I need glasses or something so I don't see the post there. But no, basically what happened was I was driving the net. I was going full speed. I was going pretty fast. I think that
I was honestly, I was like 20 rows up and watching. I'm like, oh, here comes shit. Ooh.
Yeah, that could have been one of the fastest I've skated. But to run it down, I shot it. I followed my rebound with my head. I kind of followed it, and then I thought I was out of line with the post, but then I ended up, nailing the post, and everyone thought it was my head, but I knew right away my shoulder. I did something. I was hoping it wasn't bad, and then I went straight to the room. I didn't feel it. Like, I felt good when I got up. I just kept my, arm in the same spot. But then I went to the room, and I knew, like, they started taking off my shoulders, and they knew I couldn't move it, and I tried to, and it was...
Did they take it off, or did they cut it off?
They had to cut my shirt off because I couldn't move it. I just kept it like that.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to try and go out there, but they said no. So it, I mean, like I said, like, injuries and stuff aren't fun. There's a lot worse things that can happen in life, though. Yep. I mean, I've lost my mom. I lost my billet mom. So I've been through a lot worse in life. So this was a little bit easier, but still I was... I was crying in the dressing room, and my dad and brother were, because, it's the World Juniors. You want to play for your country. You want to win gold. I want to be there for my teammates especially. But yeah, it's, no hockey player doesn't like to sit and watch hockey. Of course. And, I wish I could have been out there, but there's a lot worse things that can happen in life.
Like, everyone that talks to you comes away with the same thing. This kid is way more mature than his birth certificate says. You've had a lot of tragedy in your life. Okay, you mentioned your mom. You mentioned your billet mom as well. Your owner is one of the most loved owners, and I got to know him back when he was in radio decades and decades ago, and then got to know him when he bought the Erie Otters. And he's someone that, this is Mr. Walters, who always had, Mr. Walters always had time for you and would remember conversations that you had previous. Do you have a word or two about him?
Yeah, no.
Because everybody was shocked and, like, deeply saddened when he passed away.
He became one of my best friends, good friends. Jim Waters, Sheila Waters, they were amazing. My parents said the day they said they would take me, my parents were super happy. Jim actually asked if we wanted to fly down, to Erie. My dad said, nope, you get me some wings and we'll have dinner. But trust me, I'm already coming. My son's already coming. And my parents felt so relieved, letting me come to the Erie Otters, knowing that those were my owners. But they take so much care of us. They spoil us, a lot more. And my dad's like, hey, when you come home, don't be expecting this treatment. So, no, but they do so much for our team. They do everything so that we can succeed. And they said, if we need anything, come up to them and they'll get it right for us. They do anything, but they just care. They're good people and they want to win, and they just care so much.
I know at the time, one last thing on your shoulder, at the time you're thinking about Team Canada and the World Juniors. You're probably thinking about the Erie Otters in the OHL. Was any part of you thinking about the draft?
Not really. I take it, day by day, and I was focused on the World Juniors. It was maybe the most fun I've ever, or the biggest and like most motivating game I've played in. I mean, going out in warm-ups and
packed house.
I was skating around and I was like, this is unreal. Like,
yeah.
I was so fired up, and the Finland game was amazing. Like, we came out, we really showed them, how we were supposed to play.
Yep.
But no, I was focused on the World Juniors. I was just sad I couldn't play the rest of the World Juniors because, like I said, I want to play. I wish I could have played all year. Like, I love playing hockey. But yeah, no, I was just thinking about my teammates especially, and I wanted to be there for them, and I was happy I could get surgery in Ottawa so I could stay with my teammates along the ride and be there for them, and give them that extra pat on the back, read that lineup, and just be there in case any of the boys need it. But no, I missed that group, and I wish I was able to play the full tournament.
Are you the kind of person, I mean, sometimes like players just like hang it up in your stall or will text it to you, but like, do you follow the draft rankings at all? Oh, this guy's got me here, that guy's got me there. Like, it became pretty quick this season, even though the body of work wasn't a full season, that, Schaefer's number one.
A lot of people always bring it up and say all these things, and you see it, but it's really not said and done until the draft. And there's so many great players, and obviously a lot of players had a lot more time to play than me, and really all I can do is just be a good teammate for my Erie team, and not focus on anything else. But being the best person I can be to help my teammates out in any way. But yeah, like I said, anything can happen. Those rankings don't mean anything until, it's said and done at the draft.
Of course. The Islanders haven't tipped their hat?
No, I had dinner with them. I met them at the Combine. They're amazing people. I'm really happy for Matthew Darsh and his GM spot there. He deserves it. I've heard a lot of great things about him. And when I met him, he was, the person everyone talks about. But yeah, they have a great group there.
The coach has a junior background,
exactly,
and a Stanley Cup background.
And I know he played in the. So they got good stuff going for them
for sure.
But yeah, they're amazing. They got a great team. So it'll be good. Looking forward to it.
Do you have your suit picked out for the draft? And
I
is
do.
there any sort of special lining, any secret messages, either private or otherwise?
Yeah. So I won't say what designs on the outside I'm doing or anything. I'll keep that pretty low key until the draft's a little surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the inside, I'm doing pictures of my family and my mom. And then I'll do one hockey. My brother's like, I'll do one hockey. I'm like, I want to do family because family's like really important to me.
Yeah.
But no, I ended up doing one picture of hockey, and then I did, family and my mom, and then I put my mom's signature on my heart. It's actually in here too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so then I did my mom's signature on my heart, and then I did I already did 4 hearts because it's on my mom's stone at the cemetery as 4 hearts representing our family, and then I put family beside it there. And then I'll probably maybe do my signature on the back and like the lapel, but then and then in the inside, so it's a mixture of pictures of my family and my mom, and then the draft 2025 kind of background.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This is like so much of this is not just your own personal journey. You mentioned family is certainly very important to you. I always think of minor hockey coaches and other teammates that sort of helped you along the way. Do any of those like come to mind when you think about like your time playing before you got to the OHL?
Yeah.
Like who are your people?
Yeah. Well, I want to thank Jimbo, we call him. He was my D coach my last year in Halton. I still talk to him to this day.
Yeah.
He always has my back throughout, life, and he's been nothing but the best. He comes to watch me play still. There's a lot of coaches that I've had, and
you can have a Hurricanes logo inside the suit jacket.
I don't actually. I know a lot of people are actually. I guess it's blue and black here.
There you go. So that works.
That
works.
But,
that counts.
I know a lot of people are doing a lot of their logos and everything, but for me it was a no-brainer to do, family in the inside. Honestly, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my family, and especially, my mom and dad and brother driving me to games, me going to watch my brother in the OHL. He's 9.5 years older than me. So, things like that just mean so much. And I think the biggest thing my mom wanted was to us to be humble and just be a good person. People, hockey players can get a bad rep because, sometimes they can think they're too good. But my mom just wanted me to be a good person, respect people how they want to be treated. But yeah, just always have a smile on your face.
You're a special young man. Great player and a wonderful person. Wish you all the best at the draft.
Thank you.
Number one's going to look great on you. Matthew Schaefer. He's going to go first overall. I know Matthew Darsh is already rehearsing how he's going to say Matthew Schaefer's name. And as we mentioned, didn't have the most complete season because of the injury. But, I mean, he did enough and has done enough that in this draft year, everybody looks at Matthew Schaefer and says, he is the guy. And if you've ever seen him play, the first thing that jumps out at you is the skating. Holy smokes. Can this guy move his feet? And very much has his head in the right place. He's had a lot of tragedy around him. He's had to grow up quickly, right? Let's be honest. I mean, I went through what he went through. I lost my mom when I was 16 years old to cancer, and I went the opposite way that Matthew Schaefer is going. Matthew Schaefer, as you can tell, everything about his journey through hockey is all about his family and honoring his mom and honoring his billet mom. And I love the way that he talked about Jim Waters, who really was one of the most beloved owners in the OHL, the late owner of the Erie Otters. That was wonderful. So expect to hear his name first in Los Angeles when the Islanders pick. Michael Meese's name will probably be second. And then after that, it is really jump ball. Thanks to Matthew Schaefer for stopping by the program here today. Dan McKenzie is going to stop by here in a couple of moments. We'll get Dan all set up here on the set. He's the president of the Canadian Hockey League. We are, by the way, here at the Delta in downtown Toronto for the CHL Awards. Matthew Schaefer was named Defenseman of the Year. Before that, we had Landon DuPont on. He was named the Rookie of the Year. Gardiner MacDougall, who kicked off the program today, was the Coach of the Year. The president of the CHL is no stranger to this program. He is Dan McKenzie, and he joins me now. Dan, thanks so much for this again, and thanks for hosting us here. Why do it this year here at the Delta?
Well, Delta Marriott is one of our newest partners.
Excellent.
So very excited about that partnership. And so when we did that deal, we thought, and this hotel is one of my favorites in Toronto.
Oh, it's great.
You can't beat the location.
Yeah, it's excellent.
So that was part of it. And what we wanted to do is we worked with the OHL in terms of their timing on their awards. We used to always do the awards at the Memorial Cup.
Yep.
Which happened just the way it worked before.
Those were fun too. I really did enjoy those awards.
They were. Yeah. But this, we wanted to do the CHL Awards as the last CHL event of the year. So doing it here after the OHL Awards, which they had this week, made a lot of sense. Be honest, you realize, you and I both live in the area.
Yeah.
You forget how easy Toronto is to get to for people. And so we've got winners from across North America.
Yep.
It's one flight, in and out.
Yeah.
And some of our folks, so I spent some time last night with the parents of the award winners and the award winners. Mm-hmm. Some of them don't get to Toronto all that much. So to get a chance to whether they went, actually some of the guys, we got them tickets to the Kendrick Lamar concert last night.
Oh, no way.
That they went to. We ended up going over to Real Sports to watch the Oilers game. Like just some of the things that we sort of take for granted.
Oh, I know.
A lot of these folks don't get a chance to be a part of. So,
Hall of Fame? Any of them wander over to Young in Front to go check out the Hall of Fame?
I think that some of that might be happening today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, this is the last sort of tentpole event for the CHL on the calendar. So you'll wake up tomorrow morning and Dan McKenzie will do what? Now that I'm guessing in your mind this season has been put to bed?
Well, we still have the draft. So
right.
The NHL draft is a big one for us, especially this year. I mean, we've got
for the first overall pick, who was just sitting there a couple of seconds ago. Yeah, Matthew Schaefer. Yeah.
So, this is gonna be a really good year for us. I think on the draft front.
Yep.
Our record for first round picks is 21. I think we're on track to be in that range, if not beat it. I think that's about a 25-year. That's a record for us. So we're that's within sight. 170 guys on the central scouting list.
Great.
We're just really excited about the group of players, and we had a chance to meet some of these kids at the CHL USA Prospects Challenge, which I know you were very, very great to help support. Great group of kids. These guys are just pros. They work hard. They're good students. They're great players. They're great people. Their families are great people. Today was a really great example of the caliber of people we have in the Canadian Hockey League, and I think the NHL draft will be another day like that too.
The one thing I'm always impressed by now more so than ever, and I always try to figure out why, and maybe it's a lazy answer, but I always say, well, it's because they all grew up on social media now, and they're used to having themselves out there. But whether it was Matthew Schaefer, who was just here, or Landon DuPont, who's granted exceptional status, and he's the rookie of the year in the CHL. Just me, or are we at a place right now where kids seem more comfortable in their skin, talking and communicating and presenting than they've ever been?
I think so, and I think you're right. I think social media is part of it.
I think it's a big part.
I think in our league, these kids are, as you know, they're known in their communities, and they're they have profile in the places where they play, and they do a lot of media. I mean, that's the reality of it. So whether it's whatever you do, I mean, interviewing people. But the more interviews you do, the better you get at it. It's the same thing for them.
But hockey social media is huge. It's always, I've always felt that it was a sort of a niche in hockey that was underserved. Not anymore.
Right.
There's so many different places for these players now to get exposed. I mean, digital has been wonderful for that, and I just wonder if that contributes to it as well.
It absolutely does. I mean, the familiarity and just the comfort level with having yourself out there is just different than it was even 10 years ago.
Well, one of the things I was mentioning before you came on, I always try to put myself okay, so if I was Dan McKenzie, given the reality of the new landscape, and I thought, by the way, and I went back and watched it, and I thought you gave a great answer when I asked you, what was this going to be like between the NCAA and the CHL, and you said, quite honestly, no one knows. Right now, and everyone is sort of marching into the unknown. It's going to settle into whatever it's going to settle into. But the one thing that I do wonder about is, do you think that this, I don't want to say battle because there's no longer a fight between the two, but this competition to create player-positive environments from market to market, how much do you think that fuels individual markets, just bluntly, to up their game? And is this something that you would, and I don't want to single out any franchise, but would you say hey, market X, it's time to pick up your game here?
Yeah, I think there's multiple layers to it, and part of it is, as you could be market specific, but I think philosophically, I think there's also probably a bit of a discussion right now that and some decision making that players need to make in terms of what path is the right one for me. And I think there's the one path of playing the CHL, play a full schedule, play 4 rounds of playoffs, play for the Memorial Cup, and that that sort of going through that gauntlet and that grind is really valuable for these players. And I know from speaking to NHL GMs that I speak to say that the biggest transition is for players when they go to the NHL or the AHL is getting used to the grind.
Yeah.
Outside of the talent jump and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So I think that's one philosophy, and then there's another philosophy which is play less. Go to the gym. Play on the weekends.
Yep.
And recover and all that kind of stuff. So I think. And go to school. So I think that when I answered your question last time, I think it's no one really exactly knows what the right answer is.
I think it's player specific. I really do.
And I think that from our perspective, I think we feel pretty comfortable that based on our historical track record of placing players in the NHL and professional hockey leagues around the world, that our model works. But to answer the layered part of your question. We have to continue to make sure that every market that we have teams in can operate at a standard, or operating at a standard that is the best development opportunity for our players. So some teams, it might be they need to upgrade their training facilities. For some teams, it might be they got to hire a mental performance coach. For some teams, it might be I don't know, might be more around strength and conditioning talent.
Sure.
But I think every player is different, but so is every market. And so with our commissioners, that we have 3 fairly new commissioners in each of the league, highly focused with their clubs on how can we make sure that the standards are just continue to rise. And I feel pretty comfortable that when it's all said and done, we're gonna be stronger when it's all said and done.
One of the things that, and this might be, it's always been like this, so we all sort of take it for granted. But I really do think that the one area that I'm sort of a little bit surprised the CHL doesn't put more of a public accent on is the relationship with equipment manufacturers. I've heard so many stories from other junior leagues where mom and dad have to send sticks, or I need a new pair of skates. I just had a growth spurt, and mom, can you send me the vapors in a box? And I've always this to me, like, as a hockey dad, I look at it and go, like, my kid goes to whatever market, I'm not sending sticks anymore. I'm not buying skates. I'm not buying gloves anymore.
Yeah, and that's something that we've spent a lot of time on in the last 18 months. As you know, we announced last week at the Memorial Cup a new set of partnerships. So we have a new. So our old we had a great relationship with CCM for years and years, and CCM was both our lead partner in equipment and also in apparel. And what we ended up doing as we sort of went through the process is we ended up splitting it up, and we landed with Under Armour on the jersey and sock side, who really are sort of their specialty products are in that area. And we think that's going to pay dividends both for the athlete. I mean, they just have a history of innovation in terms of the jersey and that kind of jersey and protection and that kind of stuff. And also at retail, we think there's going to be some really good opportunities for the fans eventually. And then on the equipment side, we ended up transitioning to Bauer. And to your point about sticks and skates, I mean, as a hockey parent, when you come
I know, Dan.
When you come into the CHL, it's the first time since your kid's been probably 5 years old that your equipment is paid for, and so our clubs, cover that for the team, for the players, and sometimes you forget how important that is. But it's not only is it important from a cost perspective, but from the perspective of these players having the best equipment to play with. We've got our roster of companies who our teams can buy from are the best in the business: Bauer, CCM, True, Vaughn, and whether it's player equipment or goalie equipment, our goal is always to have the best equipment for our players. So we're really excited about those partnerships, and sometimes it is something that's overlooked, but especially for us on the jersey side, it's going to be interesting to see where UA takes us in terms of jerseys, fan jerseys, and player jerseys going forward.
Retro CHL jerseys?
Potentially.
Like, there's some beauties from the past. I mean, you and I have had this conversation before. There's some gorgeous, and even teams that don't exist anymore. New West Bruins and Hamilton Finn Cups and all these great old teams.
And alumni too.
Yes.
Right? So we have the combination of the logos and the alumni could be pretty exciting.
How much more can this league expand? The Quebec Maritime League wants to get into the United States. There are almost two that joined the Ontario Hockey League. Like, how much expansion can you? And I know there's a lot of hurdles to it. Probably for a bigger conversation than I'm asking now, but how aggressive does the CHL and all three member leagues want to expand?
So I think it depends a little bit on league, and these decisions are made at the league level. So each of the league's board of governors makes those decisions. As you've indicated, there's been I think Mario in the Q has been fairly public about their desire to expand into the northeastern United States, and so that is, I think, on their roadmap. I think in Ontario, I think there is a feeling especially with the changes to the rules and the expansion of the player pool, expansion of interest from U.S. players to play in the CHL, that we think there probably is an opportunity for a bit more. Don't have any real specifics yet, but I would not be surprised to see there be expansion in the OHL down the line, and potentially even some markets in Ontario. There's some markets in Ontario that might make sense, but again, that'll be a decision that the OHL governors and Brian make in the next in the short term. I know it's continually on the agenda. No firm deadlines yet. As you said, it is a little bit complicated in terms of all the things have to be in place for that to happen. But I'd say that, and then in the West, outside of what's already been announced in terms of Penticton this year and Chilliwack next year, just given the geographical footprint out there, not exactly sure where the WHL is going to go on that front. But again, I think the the plan ultimately, if the player pool can support it, would be to expand, and probably the bulk of the expansion would be in the U.S.
It really does seem, and again, like I'm not there. This is probably a better question that I should that Dan Year will give a great answer to, but you're right on top of it as well. The one major area of growth for elite players is the Western League right now, and the academy model. Like, listen, Landon DuPont was here a second ago, and Marek Schultz, and Connor Bedard, and et cetera. So I go right down the Gavin McKenna, et cetera. Like, it used to be, and I know Gordie Howe fans and Joe Sakic fans and Carey Price fans will always get on me about this, but generally superstars in the NHL that came from Canada came from the Ontario League or the Quebec League. Now, there are very high-end players coming out of the Western League, and that's always been true, but not like the Marios and the Waynes and the Bobbies. Now, there was the Gordie from Flin Flon, but like you know what I'm talking about. Like, but now it's consistently up at the top of every NHL draft. There's someone coming from the Western League.
Yeah, I think as you said, it goes in cycles. Partly. I think the sports school model out there is something that
I really think that's what it is. It's
driving.
A hothouse. It's a hothouse.
And it's interesting. We had a gentleman from the Canadian School Sport League, Andy Oakes, join us in Rimouski, and he met with us all about what they're doing and their expansion plans, and they're aggressively moving across the country, and so I think they've established a foothold in the East. Ontario's kind of I know important to them, so I think you might see that model continue. And then I also think that Hockey Canada is also going through a whole look at their CDM and what their athlete development model, and so I think that you're going to see there's a lot of focus right now on how we produce hockey players from the younger ages all the way up. And we'll be part of that process as well. And where we can, to your first question about standards, I mean, we all have to get better. I mean, no one is sitting on their hands here. Developing, being a great place where players can develop their skills, is something that we're all about. And it's really important.
So what's next?
Well, I'm going to probably rest tomorrow. It's been a long stretch.
Give yourself a day.
I think for us, the summer goes by so quick now.
It does. And but what is summer? Like, we're all working like deep in. Once upon a time it was July 2nd. It's like, all right, gone fishing. Yeah. Those days are gone.
No, those days are gone. So I think for us, I'd say we've got a busy summer. I think we're still in the process of working through some of the implications with what some of our clubs are going to do as it relates to their rosters for next year, depending on changes. I think a third national event is something that we're going to spend some time on this summer, digging in on. So we've got the Memorial Cup, we've got the Prospects Canada USA CHL USA Prospects Challenge, and we'd really love to put a third event on the calendar. So we're not there yet, but we're going to work on that. I think we're going to be working on who's going to be our host for 2027 and the OHL for the Memorial Cup.
Right.
That'll be on my agenda. And then we've got some work to do on our media deals. So we've had a couple of announcements on the streaming side, WHL and the Q.
Yeah,
so
I saw that with Flow and the Q.
Flow and the Q and Victory Plus and the Dub. So the OHL is going to should be announcing something in the coming weeks. And then our national rights are up after the end of next season. So we'll be spending some time on that. So, there's a lot going on. And then obviously, of course, just, working with the NHL on what the future looks like with that deal. So I think it's going to be a busy summer.
And there's always something to talk about. I mean, listen, I always say, and we've heard the old saying, may you live in interesting times. There has probably never been a more interesting time in the history of junior hockey in this country than right now. And I think that your answer, as I mentioned before, the last time we spoke, was a particularly salient one. The real answer, it might not be great for sports talk radio, but it's the truth. No one knows.
Yeah,
and we don't know. We don't know.
And you know what, Jeff? I'll just say, there's a lot of speculation. And I would say, you talked before about the good things about digital. There's also a flip side to that a little bit. And I think that, we got to remember, it's funny. So for this event, we had, I mentioned that I had some of the parents and players in last night. We had a dinner, and some of the kids went to the concert. When you're with these kids, you realize, well, two of them weren't there. And you know why? Prom. They had prom. It's like two of these.
Let them be kids now. They're hockey machines.
And these are
What do you
two
mean, prom?
kids who are going to be in the top 5 in the NHL draft. They had prom, and so you realize like when with all the speculation and the so and so's going here and so is going there, you realize they're just kids. And so let the cards play. Let these families and players make the best decision for them, and we're all going to be fine. We just gotta do the best we can. But I think we just got to slow down a little bit sometimes.
Amen to that. Thanks so much for this. Congratulations on a great event here at the Delta. Much appreciated.
Thanks
Dan,
as always,
be well.
Jeff.
We'll chat soon.
Appreciate it.
Dan McKenzie is the president of the Canadian Hockey League. Live here from the Delta. It is the Sheet with yours truly, Jeff Marek, and that ends the guest portion of the program. I want to thank Dan McKenzie for stopping by. I want to thank Matthew Schaefer for stopping by, Landon DuPont, and Gardiner MacDougall. In the meantime, hey Zach, remember from like 2 hours ago when we were talking about the Edmonton Oilers? I kind of get carried away when I talk to junior hockey people. You must know this by now.
Yeah, I do. I figured that one out at this point. Yeah, if there's anything I know.
Listen, junior hockey was my first love. I remember going to Marlborough's games when I was a kid, and then when I was at university at Guelph, I don't think I missed more than a handful of Guelph Storm games. But nonetheless, we got something for the Ninja Crispy inbox. So it is now time, folks, for the Ninja Crispy inbox, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer. Zach.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy portable cooking system. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
It is an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max crisp, bake, air fry, and recrisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. What, Zacharoo, do we have in the crispy inbox today?
This one came in on Twitter the other day. This one says, from Michigan, Mike, at Mike McMahon21.
All right.
No one is mentioning Red Wings as linked to any top UFAs or even RFAs.
Okay.
Is it because Yzerman never leaks info, or no top guys want to join the Wings? Still got to think Wings are a destination with new building, facilities, cities reborn, practice rinks on site. Yzerman's respected by players, or am I way off?
So Detroit's really interesting. One, Yzerman is, as we like to call him, the new Lou. Nothing much gets out of the Detroit Red Wings organization. And we did see a sort of little mini volcanic eruption between Dylan Larkin, the captain of the Detroit Red Wings, complaining essentially about a lack of action from his general manager around trade deadline time. And you saw a sort of mini tempest in a teapot between his star player and the general manager. The one thing that I keep coming back to with the Detroit Red Wings, and maybe it ultimately won't get solved until Trey Augustine is a pro and is their starting netminder. I keep thinking that we've mentioned that Utah's in the goalie market. I don't know that there's a bigger team in the goalie market perhaps than the Detroit Red Wings. Not that I want to pin all the woes of the Detroit Red Wings on their net minding, but it's been less than impressive, let's just say. It's amazing what can happen when you can get a save, and no team knows that more. Oh, thank you. I thought it was a good point, too. No team knows that more than the Detroit Red Wings. So if I'm looking to see what's available around shopping time on July 1st, I'm probably looking at net minding for the Detroit Red Wings. But much like we talked about Pat Verbeek and some of the shine coming off the rose, okay, he's been in this role for 3.5 years. It's time to get something done. It's probably that time as well for the Detroit Red Wings and Steve Yzerman. Yzerman is a big name in the market, that's true, but there's only so much both the fans and the Ilitch family are going to take until there are some significant questions asked there. Does that make sense to you, Zach?
Yeah, that makes sense. the new Lou is also.
Yeah, he's a new Lou.
The new Lou. Lou goes out, and then there you go. Stevie Y fills his spot.
Yes, correct. All right. I'm curious to see what you come up with for this one. Last night was an absolute banger. Last night was the emotional roller coaster. We don't have a game until tomorrow. Let's see what Zacharou's got on his mind. The sheet is powered by FanDuel, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. What you thinking about today, Zach Phillips?
All right, so at this point, there's been one market I just keep going back to. Yeah. And after last night, we saw a major swap. I told you before I thought some guy was priced incorrectly, and after last night's game, Leon Draisaitl now at number 2 for the Conn Smythe.
Oh, yeah,
plus
look at
230. Sam Bennett plus 140. McDavid in third plus 270. Marchand plus 1,700. Kachuk up to plus 3,000. Yeah. But Jeff, one of the reasons I listed out all 5 of these guys, one guy has fallen out of the top 5, and I think it's over for him no matter what. You know who that guy is?
Who's that guy?
Sergei Bobrovsky.
It's not going to happen. But the Calvin Pickard story is fantastic.
Oh, you want Pickard Conn Smythe?
It's not going to, again, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But for someone, like, I love the career AHL guys. Like, things really did not come together at all for Calvin Pickard until he's 33 years old? Right? And he's been given every opportunity to quit. It may be reason to quit. All he's done, Zach, is he's come in and he's won every single game.
Yeah, I know. 7-0.
7-0. And there he was, again, winning this. Like, we were all writing off the Edmonton Oilers. And even after the first period last night, we were really writing off the Edmonton Oilers.
Twitter was
on fire against the Edmonton Oilers. And Calvin Pickard came and calmed everybody down. Now, he's not the most calm goaltender. I kind of said tongue-in-cheek, like he's playing ball hockey style sometimes, just trying to make saves. But what a trip it would be, and what a story it would be if he ends up with a record of 9-0 and the Edmonton Oilers win a Stanley Cup. There's got to be one of the writers that goes, you know what? Calvin Pickard's kind of saved this team's season not once, but twice. Should maybe Pickard be given some consideration here? What do you think?
Honorable mention, sure.
They don't do the honorable mention cup.
I completely understand what you're saying with the argument, and I actually kind of do agree because of the entire body of work, but no. Yes. Conn Smythe, not happening.
You're not picking it up?
No. Can I throw one thing at you before we get out of here? Because by the time we get back, this will not be in play. On Morning Cup of Hockey the other day, Laz tried to pitch the idea that it was effectively it's better for the Oilers to be down 3-1 than tied 2-2 because there's more pressure on them at tied 2-2. I just want a quick thought from you now that the series is tied 2-2. Is there more pressure on the Oilers than there would be if they were down 3-1?
Doing this job is hard. You have to come up with things to say every single day. Trust me. I know. I've done this since 1995. You have to come up with different takes. Sometimes, and sometimes, and this is what the best broadcasters will do, they'll deliberately take a position that they know is wrong and bordering on stupid. So I'm going to go.
That one was not
I'm going to go with Johnny Lazarus is taking one for the team, trying to make the show better by taking a point of view that is absolutely ridiculous just in order to get a reaction out of me, out of Colby, out of anybody watching or listening to that show. I love him, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But holy smokes, there's more pressure there's more pressure tied 2-2 than 3-1. Again, it's not an easy job, folks. You got to come up with something to say and multiple things to say on a daily basis. I'm just not sure that I'm picking up what our man Laz is putting down on that one. And with that, we'll wrap up here from the Delta. Different style show at a different time. We thank you for hanging in there, whether you're watching the stream in the chat or listening on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate the support. I want to thank the CHL for hosting us. Chris Sagan, great job. Want to thank everybody here at the Canadian Hockey League. Want to thank Dan McKenzie for stopping by the program. Matthew Schaefer, Landon DuPont stopped by the show. The great Gardiner MacDougall stopped by as well. Nick Caroli for putting it all together. Great job, man. And our man Zach Phillips for holding it down as well. And for Stephen Ellis, who did a ton of interviews yesterday with a bunch of CHL players as I was in Florida for Game 4. So the show returns on Monday at this normally scheduled 3 o'clock time. Don't forget Morning Cup of Hockey with Hot Take Laz. If I'm the Oilers, I'd rather be down 3-1 and facing elimination than tied 2-2. Who wants that? Who wants the best 2 out of 3 when you could be down 3-1? I love you, bud, but sometimes you're eating space cake. It's just the way it is. Just the way it is. We've all done it. Morning Cup of Hockey, Monday morning, 9 o'clock Eastern, DFO live at noon, and our act at 3 bells. Talk to you next week. Signing off from the Delta. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.